Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Hayseed night. Let's go ahead and start a new game.
Holy horns! What's with this place? It's ancient. Are you sure we're allowed to be here?
You're allowed to be anywhere as long as no one finds you. Sneaking through forgotten cracks in a wall is not as easy as it once was, but I still managed to push my hat and my staff in somehow without wrecking the wall any further. Today's a mess, and the last thing I'd want is the whole city knowing that I'm back on my nonsense, namely, helping fawns trespass into abandoned temples in pursuit of fixing the written lies that pass as history these days. I'm too old for this rubbish. I catch a glimpse of Lynn's expression as I push my scarf over my face again. My newest headache looks entirely unconvinced by my logic. Look, we're already here and you're going to need all the help you can get, kid. I don't have the time to explain every single little thing to you. If said kid still has any qualms left about following me here, she has the rare decency to not voice them. I mean, this whole ordeal is her fault, in a very roundabout sort of way. Still her fault nonetheless. It's anyone's but mine, at least. I didn't come here all the way to the city to do charity for his descendants. I just wanted to find that dumbass's grave and clean up a little or leave some incense or something, not this. I wasn't looking to hear legends about any so-called knight of the upper field. I know the books in this library won't say a word about him, but I had to come back to this place anyway. The unlikely possibility of finding a trace of his existence among the broken tablets and burnt codices was far too compelling to ignore. Here I am, still following in his footsteps, like the few unlucky scripts that time and thieves spared, frozen in their shelves as they await the return of someone who will understand them. We have a lot in common, this library and I. The kid's eyes open a fraction wider, and I only manage to narrowly avoid the incoming onslaught of questions. Here, ink, paper, you can write, right?
Of course! You're talking to the fastest!
Shut it, Asgadaz.
Sheesh, you're really adding some flavor to my name, huh? Where did all that salt come from? Or could that be the sweetness of an old flame leaving such a bitter aftertaste?
Ew, no. Don't do that. It makes you sound like your mother. I mean, her mother. Or her great-great-great-grandmother? Gah! I can't believe the story has derailed this much. How long have I been gone?
I can't even start to guess if you won't tell me how old you are.
I'm entirely too old to care about something as dumb as numbers.
Well, gee, I'm starting to see why you wanted me here. Do you have a name, or are you too cool for letters too?
My name would only doom this project. You will be me, and I will be nothing more than the space between words.
What a droll way to say you want me getting lynched for this.
I can still keep the story to myself and tell you to get lost, kid.
But you won't, because after hearing my name, you realize I'm the chosen gazelle that legend of old prophesied would tell the true story of the night, right? I could use a little encouragement here, not gonna lie.
Listen, Lynn, I don't believe in chosen ones, and I certainly don't know what the truth is. I doubt Ader himself ever knew. But I am going to tell you the story I know. I will tell it once, and I will probably tell it wrong, since I can barely remember it anymore. But even so, anything I say will be 1,000 times more accurate than any of the odes this witless bunch of fop-doodles have been singing through the ages. This may be Ader's punishment for lying his way into history, but I still can't let the name of a friend be smeared like that. So what I mean to say is that I will skewer you if you interrupt me and make me forget something.
Fair.
She finally shuts up for a moment, though I know the silence won't last. Right. Good. I guess I should put my own thoughts in order before we begin. His story started back when he left his village to... No, that would be too long. His story starts when he became a knight and... No, that defeats the point. I guess his story... Well, I guess his story starts with me. I could allow myself that much merit, right?
Who are you again?
I'm the one who tells the story. You write. Okay, alright. Here we go. Chapter 1. The Fickle Queen, or what better way to start a story than when things are about to go south?
Ader. Hey, lad. Do we have to go through this every single fuck?
No!
Oh boy. Here we go.
A beast! I saw a beast!
Way to call me an eyesore.
I'm telling you, I saw a beast.
Okay, so here we've got the encyclopedia. Welcome to the encyclopedia. If you want to learn all about the characters and the world they live in, make sure to come back often. If you find yourself overwhelmed by all the info, don't worry. You will learn all the important concepts as you play through the story itself. Still, if you want a crash course ahead of time, I'd recommend reading the topic species in lore and checking out locations. I think we'll do that at the end of the episode, because I know that not every one of you is going to be interested in hearing all of that stuff. So we'll continue the story for a while, and then kind of the last thing I will do before I end the episode is I will come back to the encyclopedia here and read about the locations and about the species or what was it again? That was recommended for us to read at this point. But for now, let's get back to the story.
Right. Look, I'm not drunk enough for this, so good.
This ain't no time to sleep. The beast may be gone, but the Macadar are still out there. The forest's out there and it's come to find me.
Can you stop screaming like an idiot and use your brain for a second?
I knew they'd get to the city one day. We gotta tell everyone.
There are no damn trees around, you dimwit!
A long shush followed right after, or that's what we'll go with, since the words their dear neighbors used were too colorful to be reproduced.
Oh, then what did you holler for, Mr. Bard? The sun ain't up yet. If you don't quit your whining, we're gonna get a beating.
Says you, the buck who hath been delighting mine ears with his pitiful wailing all night long.
Say what?
You've been talking in your sleep again.
Well, slap my head and call me silly. I'm so sorry, Mr. Bard. I forgot we were an heirloom for a moment there. But no more. I'm gonna make sure to keep my dreams dead silent from now on.
That's what you said last time. Can't a deer have a hangover in peace for once?
You know that I'd move away if I could, but...
Don't sweat it, kid. Once you're faring better, you'll take us both out of our misery.
Wait. Fair? Fair? Oh, 3.
Don't.
The fair!
I swear to Bite-Tat, kid, if you keep screaming, I'm going to kill you.
Not if they get to me first!
And so Ader's heavy hooves stomped the ground with the force of a stampede as he sprinted away, making Joff regret every decision that led to him suffering this torment.
Glad we sorted that out.
Wide awake now and running as fast as his clumsy hooves would let him, Ader set off to the bazaar. A whole year had come and gone since he'd first set foot on the streets of Slander District, the most infamous slums of the capital. A place so heinous that walking there alone at night was considered a suicide attempt. A place where you were in your right to keep a house if you could outlast its previous owner. Where he'd once felt like a poor fawn fearing for his life, now he felt like a poor deer fearing for his life. But at least he actually knew his way around after such a long time avoiding brigands. He had no time to spare worrying about trivial matters such as being robbed or stabbed, for he knew fully well that he was to meet his destiny.
The patron's gonna skin me alive!
A destiny which most likely didn't really include being flayed by his dearest employer. Though we can't rule out the possibility of his direct superior whacking him in the head for oversleeping on such an important date.
What if she hates me now? Then the patron won't have no problem kicking me out. He'll kick me out and keep my skin as a payment. Nah, that's dumb. But he'll kill me anyway. Oh, crap.
So immersed was he in these fatalistic thoughts invading his head that his brain, which was by all accounts mostly made up of sawdust, didn't pay any mind to the path his hooves were following. And so, as is to be expected from someone not heeding the wise advice, look where you're going, he soon met the first obstacle in his way to the plaza. A wall.
Oh dear.
In any other place, that soft chuckle would have meant that Ader wouldn't have the benefit of living with his failures alone. In the slums, It could mean that he wouldn't have the benefit of living at all.
That was almost impressive. I truly thought that you were going to run straight through that wall for a moment.
The voice got closer by the second, followed by a strangely harmonic tinkling, a melody that danced in his ears and paralyzed his mind, rendering him frozen in the spot at the thought of an incoming murderous lady. Ader shut his one remaining eye and held his breath deeply, knowing that it would be the last. Not dead yet. Still not dead. How come he was still alive? That's just rude. Between his blurry sight and the obfuscating darkness, Ader could barely discern the silhouette standing right in front of him. He should have run and screamed and begged for his life, but instead, he hesitated long enough for a few stray sun rays to wander among the rundown houses, finally casting light upon his foe.
Whoa!
For your information, everyone already thinks that Rose are thick-skulled. We don't need another martyr for the cause.
A plump gazelle dressed in exquisite silks watched over him, sole witness to his downfall. She smiled at him with the ease of one who is wealthy enough to be a local wherever they go.
Are you okay?
Suddenly unequipped to offer a coherent reply, Ader stared in stunned silence. His delayed reaction was nothing short of concerning, given the circumstances, but the new bump on his head was not to blame for it. Despite all the preconceptions screaming otherwise in his mind, this gazelle didn't appear to be hostile, murderous, or even the slightest bit interested in bringing about his death. In fact, the only demise that seemed imminent was hers.
What? Are you okay? What are you doing out and about in a place like this, ma'am? You lost or something?
In a way, I suppose. I'm hiding.
And here I am hollering down the street without a care in the world. I'm so sorry. I'll leave you be.
No need. I'm not in immediate danger, and I fully intend to be found. It is a matter of principle. I guess what I intend to be is a nuisance.
So you're playing some kind of rich gal hide and seek?
Does that lower your opinion of me much?
I mean, I ain't got much of an opinion of you yet. An impression, at most?
You've definitely made one.
The girl turned the curve of her horns towards the adder-shaped indentation in the wall. She returned with a smirk, which only served to crease Ader's brow.
You ain't no coward, that's for sure. You gotta have a lot of gall or a lot of empty room in your head to go slumming it in a place like this.
You're one to talk.
Who, me?
No, of course not. I ain't one to talk to reckless moneybags who risk their one life dawdling in slander, chewing the rag with boneheads who fly straight into walls. Except I am, because that's what they call sarcasm in these parts.
I couldn't tell.
See? That's what I'm talking about. You can't survive out here if you don't know that much, ma'am. I know y'all better sorts like playing with fire, but
he could hardly bear the thought of going on his merry way and letting a young lady become a ransom note. Not even when his neck, his job rather, was on the line.
y'all got space for one more player?
You want us to hide together? Wouldn't that be reckless of me?
Good question. I wouldn't trust myself if I were a full-time slum dweller, but I'm a temporary slum dweller. An honorary slum dweller, if you will. You could trust me for about 10 minutes.
They laughed together under their breath, like old friends, sharing a secret.
I don't know about safe, but I promise you won't be bored.
I would enjoy that.
The corner of her lips contorted upwards into a sincere grin. It felt like the greatest achievement in the boy's entire life. Ader dusted his scruffy pants, straightened his fourth or fifth hand jacket, and cleared his throat.
It's a deal then. You're in luck today, ma'am. You get a hiding partner, a meat shield, and a tour guide for the unbeatable price of nothing at all. Please stay close to the coward by your side and keep your wits about. Down danger alleys we go.
Ader said this with his chin up and a full chest, for anything else would have had him slapping his own snout, wondering what in the name of the Hadza was he getting himself into this time. Ader's anxieties were ample, unwholesome, and they tended to grow in the absence of dialogue. A few minutes stuck on a narrow staircase next to a wistful-looking girl, and he was already teeming with them. It occurred to him, now that his meager wits were starting to rearrange after getting so terribly scrambled, that running into a wall and ditching his job were potentially the least fatal of his long string of poor decisions.
So, if it ain't prying too much, course, who are we hiding from again?
Oh, no one important. You'll know when you see them.
Right, gotcha.
Ader didn't dare spare a single look in the direction of his rather nonchalant company. He couldn't afford that sort of stress in his life. Our illiterate protagonist hardly knew what a book was, or why it was generally poor manners to judge one by its cover, but he had just started to workshop the idea that the quality of one's clothes didn't necessarily reflect one's station in life. He didn't want to assume, of course, but the horned lady by his side could have easily been a thief, dressing up on her way back from Mark's house. Ader was pretty sure this was not the case, but what if? What if it was? What then? He'd get gored to death, that's what. The boy sidled one eye discreetly towards her comparatively large and sharp coiled black horns, hoping to find them a safe distance away from his face and all his fears. Fears that weren't eased by the liberty with which he found her inches away from his shoulder, gawking at his own antlers.
You're gonna make him shorter if you keep staring like that, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Am I making you self-conscious? I was just trying to get a better look at your eye patch.
That ain't much better, you know.
Where would you have me look?
Anywhere but me.
A fine company you'll make then.
I thought we were supposed to be hiding.
And yet, I'd swear that I'd set out to find you.
Our favorite dear didn't know what to make of this sentence. She wouldn't grant him the time to digest it either.
The round will be over before we know it. Let me use my one chance to look at you.
I don't know. I kind of woke up too early, and I didn't have time to wash my face very well, and I don't really like being looked at, and I got a lot to get back to, and...
So you were in a rush. Am I keeping you?
Her expression morphed into an affected pout, an atrocious turn of events. Truth is, Ader wasn't going to be just late for work anymore. He'd be double late.
Now I got places to be, yeah? But you can keep me all you like. I mean, what's the matter at this point? May as well save myself the trip back home. Chances are I'm already fired.
The lady raised a single eyebrow. It was sharp enough to stab Ader in the common sense.
And you'd rather not cast the die?
Never been one to gamble.
I'm much the same as you. Metaphorically, that is. I do have a job to keep me busy.
Hey, I do too. I got like 15, in fact. I'm a farmer by birth, a smith apprentice by trade, a fighter by chance, a water seller by day, a rivet peddler by night, a beggar when necessity strikes.
Newly unemployed by choice.
If you want me to get, you can just say that, ma'am.
I hold nothing but your best interests at heart.
Well, that makes two of us. What do you call that situation?
Unbelievable.
The gazelle turned her face briskly away towards the walls surrounding the market in the distance. Her walls seemed just as tall. Now, Ader wasn't exactly what we could call smooth, suave, anything less than gritty, really. But even he knew that the conversation wasn't going right, left, or anywhere he wanted it to go. He fully realized that he was being led by the nose by some pretty lady who hadn't even asked him to stay. He could have just walked off right then and lived a life none the wiser to the trouble that would come.
Oh, on second thought, what the hey? Look all you want. You got yourself a pass to the main event. Come and see, you bold. All the ways deer can grow wrong. Feast your eyes on the terror from Chantre, the error of nature. Long-necked shovel hands!
Ader made a little pirouette as he fell, headfirst, down the stairs. That was thankfully enough to earn him another smile.
I don't suppose you're an acrobat.
I'm the whole circus act, ma'am.
Ader wiggled one of his gigantic hands up in the air for her to inspect, trying to provide a solid argument for his thesis.
What are those?
He felt a nice, friendly grip on his hand, kindly pulling him up from the ground, and before he knew it, he found himself face to hand with the lady upstairs. She was eyeing him up and down, inspecting his hands in the way one would study an ancient carving.
My hands?
Were you born with them? How much weight can you lift? Can you use tools at all? How do you put on shirts? What's wrong with your neck? Is that a hood or a scarf? I love the pattern, by the way.
It bears mentioning that at this point in his life, Ader had only been granted the honor of holding hands with two women, his mother and his boss. Both were rough and weathered by years of work, and both could beat him in arm wrestling given the occasion. Finely filed fingers, gently wrapped around his arm, were a complete novelty, even if their owner was a...
So?
I'm sorry, ma'am. What was the question?
You! What are you supposed to be?
Oh, well, I'm just your average run-of-the-mill prairie buck, ma'am. Just, my mother gave me shovels for hands and a gourd for a neck. They're better for work in the fields.
I don't believe you.
Huh? Which part?
None. I mean, you? A farmer?
Something in the way she said that felt off. Ader couldn't quite put his finger on it, but she sounded somewhat disappointed.
What did you make me in your head?
She mumbled something inaudible.
What's that, ma'am? Get back to work and move on with your life?
I said you don't look like a farmhand.
'Cause of the eye patch?
It's not the eye patch.
I'll have you know that I'm the image of farmarity, ma'am. Or at least I was. See, I used to be all big and strong. But then I came to the city and, what do you know? Food ain't so easy to come by. I was so hungry that I'd even eat the rocks in the street. And I go to bed hungry one night, and another, and I keep on starving till I end up 2 meals short of turning into a walking pile of bones. Except for my hands. They just won't get. And I'm getting real tired of size jokes, let me tell you.
Take their envy for what it is. A sincere compliment.
You think they're jealous of my hands?
The lady was just polite enough not to reply to this question. Instead, Her gaze returned to the vastness of the city ahead and the million souls inhabiting it.
What took you so far from the fields, Mr. Farmer?
The works of fate, as Mr. Bard would say.
More like the woes of fate, seeing you. All the good a farmer's hands will do you an heirloom.
Hey, they got their uses. I'm the local champion in fly swatting 3 years in a row, and I've only been here 1. I could do a handstand like it's nobody's business. I'm a master at cartwheels to boot. And not to brag, but I ain't half a bad climber either.
Can you really do a cartwheel?
Darn right I can.
Prove it.
Oh, you want me to show you a good time, huh? Now you done it, ma'am. You've insulted me. If we were anywhere else, I'd show you cartwheels right now.
The lady put a hand on her face, desperately trying to stifle a laugh for a joke that definitely went right over Ader's head. He simply walked back downstairs, trying to make some space for the following demonstration.
I guess there ain't no harm in giving you some pointers at least. The gist of it is, imagine a line right in front of you. Don't go turning just yet. Easy mistake. Raise your arms over the top of your head like this. Put one leg ahead, and then...
Ader lunged forward, a succession of hands and legs floating across the pavement. With practiced ease, he leaped and jumped and bounced under the shocked stare of the red-headed woman in front of him. Her logic had started to lag behind a few seconds ago, slowed down by the challenge of trying to understand how she'd managed to talk a slum dweller into giving her a practical lesson on acrobatics. Once she caught up with the situation at last, the deer's athleticism was rewarded with joyful, hearty laughter on her part, making Ader chuckle nervously alongside her, equally unsure exactly of why he had agreed to any of this.
Bravo, bravo. That was quite the show. I have a feeling, alas, that I don't have the right proportions to do it like you.
Yeah, sorry. I can't really tell how any of this works with average-sized hands, or...
Horns like those was the thought Ader barely managed to bite down. She didn't seem to notice his faux pas, and if she did, she didn't mind. It was like she was looking at him with new eyes.
You weren't always this athletic, were you?
Kinda? I mean, I'm all fingers, but I was positively around before I came to the city, and I still cartwheeled the hours away in the hills all the same.
When did you move here?
Just last year.
And how many eyes did you have then?
5, I think, but I lost the other 4. Just the one, ma'am.
Ader had no clue what prompted such a personality change in his conversation partner, but he definitely had a few thoughts about it. All of them abandoned their priority spot inside Ader's brain when the gazelle cupped his sunken-in face in her hands.
It's you! It really is you, isn't it? The loudmouth one-eyed chub! Just so much more... emaciated. Oh, how could you let this happen to yourself?
He was suddenly brought to the present by the realization of how close her blue eyes were to his own.
Excuse me, hello, do you mind? I feel very strongly about having strangers' hands within stabbing distance.
But I'm not a stranger. It's me. Don't tell me you've forgotten me.
Jove had warned Ader multiple times about the dangers of the "it's me" scams, but he was pretty tempted to fall into this one.
Ma'am, I think our 10 minutes are up. I don't know what you're selling, but I ain't gonna buy it.
Come on. Don't you remember that night on the bridge under Hirob's statue? With the guards laughing at you? You didn't hit your head that hard, did you?
I bet those guards had one haystack of a night laughing at some poor buck, but I'm pretty darn sure that wasn't me. I'd remember you. Trust me.
In other circumstances, perhaps. But I suppose a year would be far too long regardless. Oh well, that only leaves one way to find out.
The cryptic woman bit her lip just long enough to make Ader lose his need to understand the situation anymore.
Come closer.
Who, me? Almost asked the deer, yet there was no one else hiding in the mists of dawn.
I said come closer.
All right then, here I come.
That's it. Come on, don't make me walk over there. Boop. That's close enough.
She slipped right under Ader's arm, uninvited, but not unwelcomed. I think we'll continue the story from here next time. See what happens next. Is Ader going to remember who she is, or are they going to come to the conclusion that she is mistaken, or what? And are we going to learn more about her? Anyway, let's read a little bit about the, I guess, about the world and its inhabitants. And then, once we've done that, I will end the episode and continue the story in the next one. So if you're not interested in learning about the world and the inhabitants of the world, then and this is your cue to click out of this video, or like stop watching or whatever. But if you do want to learn more about the world and the inhabitants of the world, then let's go learn stuff. We'll start with the locations. So we already heard about some of these, I think. We heard about we heard the name Solander District and Heirloom. Let's start by learning about the planet, Dakna. The world we inhabit is mainly composed of a single enormous continent that extends from the frozen northern reaches of Aktemusirat to the Icane steppes that are home to the biggest portion of Agazor, to the prairies of Janzure and the forest of people in the south, which are connected through an isthmus to the desert peninsula that used to occupy the kingdom of Basaxerat. The vast majority of the world has an arid climate, where only steppe life forms thrive without the help of irrigation and similar technologies. This is the reason why, with the exception of Janzure, where the climate is very forgiving and water is abundant, and the nomadic people that live off herding bushes and digging for underground water, towns all across Dakna form and survive exclusively around exuberant oases and lakes. So that was the planet. Let's read about the kingdoms. Apparently there are two. Basaxerat. Basaxerat is the name given to the Barhan kingdom that occupied the southern end of the continent, a desert peninsula connected to the rest of Dakna by an isthmus occupied by a perennial forest of people. The kingdom was lost to the sands of time 4 centuries ago, buried by deer with a lot of swords and torches. Oh, so I guess there's only one kingdom. Then, Agazor. Agazor is a huge kingdom located on the eastern end of the steppes. It is ruled in its entirety by the immortal High King Isifik, a beast of legend turned deer that has been sitting on his throne in heirloom since time immemorial, helping him govern each province and continue its expansion. Lords descended from the original deer that helped Isifik battle other beasts, rule each province, having petty inside wars, and applying the laws as they see fit, knowing well that they're protected by their status as nobles. So pretty much standard stuff for any super large empire. It's basically one huge kingdom, but more accurately speaking, it's a collection of smaller areas, and each of those areas is ruled by its own ruler. Agazor suffers from a horrible problem of mismanagement, where most of its resources are destined to their capital just to keep the huge famines that devastated every Dawnsoon under check. Okay, it doesn't sound like a very happy place to live in with the famines going on. Let's read about the Slander District next. Located to the northeast of Heirloom, Slander District is, simply put, a hill full of cutthroat slums, where the standard laws of property and ownership need not apply. Before the war, it used to be a district populated by Barhan researchers that seeked some peace far from the bazaar or anywhere mildly important, with the sole exception of the old great temple of Hirub, from which only a gazelle statue remains intact. Okay, so that was that about the Slander District. The city of Heirloom. The capital of Agazor and the most populated city in the whole of Dakna, the jewel of the Ekine steppes, always growing in the isthmus that separates Lake Tihal from Alar Sea, despite the apparent lack of space. Heirloom has a huge overpopulation problem, which is due to its location in the middle of a mostly infertile steppe overridden by bandits, the cause of an ongoing famine. The royal court only inhabits the palace that towers over the city from Bleak Night to Dawnsoon, moving to smaller palaces far up to the north in the hot moons of Dawnsoon. Okay. So that was that about the locations so far. Let's also read about the species. So we've got some whose names we've already encountered. We've encountered the name Barhan. And I guess Makedar has already come up. Let's start with Barhan. The once proud gazelles are bloodlings created by Hirub to prosper in the desert kingdom of Basakserat, now consumed by the sands of time, much like the history of its people. great wizards and avid researchers during the second creation, they are easy to spot due to their extremely resilient coiled horns, short fur, most commonly sand-colored in Basaksehrat's mainland, with darker variations alongside coastal areas, a slim body that presents little variation across sexes, and, most remarkably, the fact that both men and women are horned. Ancient tablets and scrolls point towards past petty divisions among the definition of what constitutes a Barhan, much like those common amongst equine, but the only major dispute that persists to this day is that of the ibex. After the war, that would come to be known as the sublevation of the arrogant, or more commonly Barhan Rebellion, they were given two choices, either being banished to Akdemuzirat, the frozen land beyond the spine of Ahimai, or taking refuge in Agazor, provided they swore allegiances to the High King. That wasn't all, of course. They had to give up all of their research on Sephihet, the manipulation of the Hadza, or magic for the common folk, to the deer, abandon Basak Det, definitely in favor of Sernar, swear off Sephihet under penalty of total obliteration from existence, and pay a monthly tribute per family to the local government. Social standing. Gazelles present a myriad of contradictions to a majorly servine society with a deep horn fixation. There is no better example than the concept of horn eaters and the stigma that follows deer that have Barhan cohorts. Their innate attunement to the Hadza and long history of wizardry still haunt them, painting them as dormant menaces, the villains of hundreds of tales. Conversely, their agile minds and smaller frames are described lovingly, conveying a deeply condescending and paternalistic servine desire to protect a species that has been stripped from the inventions that allowed it to thrive. Gazelles are therefore both perceived as the personification of primness, commonly employed by richer servine families as trusted management positions or as household servants, and sly tricksters that use their quicker wits and magic disposition to cheat, deceive, and curse deer in the street. Right, so that kind of explains Ader's attitude towards the gazelle woman that he just met. Equine. The oldest bloodlings that still roam the land, the deer population is mostly located on the equine steppes. In fact, equine is just an abbreviation of the Basakdet phrase Ikayabnetan, those who are red inside. They were created on a whim by Baitat after he snuck into his brother's garden and have been at odds with most plants ever since. The beasts are their natural enemies for that very reason. They take pride in having strong frames, value darker fur tones, and longer coats, and in case it wasn't obvious enough, there is no such thing as oversized antlers for a stag. A powerful rack is, after all, the most prominent and valuable trait a male deer can develop, a sign of dominance and virility inherited from an age that preceded the concepts of logic or reason. They have been united under the High King's rule since the long silence, though some tribes remain independent far to the west. Social standing. Deer are most likely the dominant species in Daknar. The equine population extends across the vast expanse that belongs to Akazor, surpassed only in numbers by ibex in Akdemuzirat and Makedar in their various forests of people. There are several vastly differentiated ranks within this position of privilege, from the lords that watch over the many provinces of Akazor and that live to continue its expansion, to the many mayors and guildsmen required to keep towns running without the aid of their so-called protectors, to caravaneers, sailors, merchants, artisans and dancers, down to the farmers, miners, and lastly, to the many lesser professions one may acquire throughout the kingdom. No official rank matters quite as much as that of horn size, though. Any peasant with vast enough horns could earn even the attention of a noble. Any noble rendered hornless would speak as loudly as the lowliest mud picker. The equine identity. Equines come in all manner of sizes, coats, and colors. The life of a stag is a constant battle to prove their worth to the kinsmen from the moment their horns are turned to live bone by the Zarzagan of their town upon their third shed, and this pointless battle to prove who is and who is not worthy of the title of Drew Deer extends to their identity as a species. Red deer, with their long brown coats and huge curved antlers, are vastly recognized as undisputed equine, keeping the name firmly for themselves and designating all the others. Fallow deer from the northern steppes, with their palmed horns and... Oh! Sorry, didn't mean to do that. I accidentally clicked. With their palmed horns and wide range of shades. Roe deer from the southern reaches, with their short antlers and sand-colored coats. And pudus, the smallest nomads that roam the steppes, etc. Roes firmly believe themselves to be equine from antlers to hooves, but the rest of the subspecies do not recognize them as such, believing their yellow fur to be the result of miscegenation with Barhans. They are extremely vocal about their bile towards the horn-eaters as a result. Dimorphism and gender. Biologically male and female deer tend to differ quite a lot from birth, but gender is not seen as a perpetual sentence. In spite of, or perhaps due to, how much a stag's life revolves around proving what their identity is and the importance of horns as a signifier, gender is quite fluid and open across the steppes. A doe who did not manage to stop her shedding may, at any point in her life, choose to saw off her horns completely, with the only requirement that she saves them to give them to a stag that never grew his to begin with, so that they too may have their right of age and have them turned to bone. Some choose to forego this ritual altogether, attaching their horns to helmets that they may put on and remove as they see fit. Okay. Then we've got the ibex. Barhan, they call themselves, but they're the only ones to do so. Both deer and gazelles refer to the descendants of the banished Barhans by a new name, ibex. Not every Barhan kneeled down before the High King after losing the war. Some preferred to face the hardships of the eternal winter far beyond the spine of Ahimai, over giving up all of their traditions. Those brave few that settled far beyond the reaches of Agazor found protection and company in the forests of Makedar that populated the harsh lands of Akhtemuzirat, for they were all children of Hirub. After the annihilation of Barhan civilization in Basakserat, the ibex clung to their language and the worship of their ancestors. They continue their worship of Hirub and pray for the day a Joseph will lead them to a new golden age. Social standing. Ibex find themselves in quite a unique situation in regards to deer, being that they are not perceived as being the same species as gazelles. They managed to escape the history that still haunts their closest siblings, in spite of being the most ardent defendants of what they perceive as true Barhan culture. Even though deer were the direct cause of their situation, the two species are an astounding example of peaceful cohabitation, going as far as to intermarry with the few tribes of deer that live so far up north. This association was most likely helped by the fact that ibex culture at large holds a deep resentment towards gazelles, seeing them as traitors that preferred to exchange their freedom for safety. Be that as it may, these mountain goats share little resemblance to their desert-dwelling ancestors. The harsh conditions of Akhtemuzirat gave place to shorter and sturdier ibex, greatly educated warriors who are often hired as caravan guards and mercenaries in petty inside wars all over the kingdom. Alright, next we've got the Makedar and the Maked deer. Makedar are children of Hirub just like gazelles. The three men were the youngest brother's first attempt at creating new living beings, and it's still discussed whether they are bloodlings or not, since they reproduce via fruits and produce sap. The Makedar are gigantic and incapable of speech. They size well up to, depending on your origin, 6 average deer, 7 gazelles, 26 arms, 30 feet or 12 standardized Carnmay horns. They are huge and eerily silent. Makedar live hidden among standard trees, away from the public eye. Makedar town halls are known as forests of people. Now, repeat after me. I'm never walking into a forest of God-stamped gigantic sentient trees in my life because I'm not an idiot. Makedar and Ekain have a long relationship of mutual hatred because the deer refused to abide by the sentence I just wrote. And then we've got the Maked deer. This dumb pun is the name of the hybrids of Makedar and Ekain, much to their chagrin. The deer quickly realized, once Makedar were created, that their fruits weren't normal, but some Ekain had to eat them to realize that first. Maked deer are born as weak saplings that have to be planted. Understanding their rarity, the tree deer that survived soon gathered to form their own families. One such family that rose to prominence were the Buntalos, who abandoned the forests entirely and found their place in the many palaces of Agazor as assistants and ambassadors. They are more deer than tree at this point, but it doesn't really show. Okay, so interesting. That's all the species that we have here so far. So now we have some sort of an understanding of the world, maybe. And maybe I will make this a habit, reading a little bit of the encyclopedia at the end of each episode. Maybe not as much as I did at the end of this one. Maybe just like a couple of entries or something. We'll see. But yeah, maybe I could read some more at the end of our next episode for those people who, like me, are interested in finding out these things. Anyway, I'm ending this episode here, and in the next one, we'll learn more about the connection that these two share, or if they even share a connection. She seems to think so, and he doesn't. So, yeah, we'll see more about that in the next episode. For now, thank you so much for watching and spending a little of your time with me here today. It was lovely to have you. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Have a lovely rest of your day. And I will see you again next time.